Richard Hammond doesn't think I can get my McLaren 720S ready for Christmas.
Seriously, you think Christmas?
In 2 months. And McLaren don't even think it's fixable.
You're not gonna be able to.
But today, we're gonna prove them wrong. In the last video, we started transferring all the good parts from the old tub onto the new tub.
This is how they do it at the factory.
That is literally it. This was our only option because after the McLaren was involved in an accident, it caused major damage to the carbon, leaving it unsafe to repair. So far, the rebuild's going great, but today I find out why it won't be as easy as I thought.
I'm never going to reach retirement age.
So here's the twin turbo, 4 litre V8. And we're going to get this in the first half of this video, I think. Before the engine goes in, we must put the fuel tank in, or else it's going to be really difficult to get to. Here is the tank. We're going to lay it on this hoist here and push it underneath the car. Can you believe we're putting the car back together? The best way to do this is in the same order that we took it apart. That way we won't have to take anything back off to put another part back in, if that makes sense. Fuel tank in! Yeah! Next up, whatever's next up. There's still a few covers to go on the fuel tank, which are held in with a few bolts and then a few plastic clips as well. And that should be it for the fuel tank. This connector here is the wire that runs all the way underneath the car to the battery. This wire is really important. Now remember in the last video where I said about the original tub, we had these hoses going in here, one to the right, one to the left, and one which goes straight through the middle here, and then it just pumps air into the actual cabin. Well, we found out that that is just so you get induction noise inside the cabin, so you can hear the whoosh inside to make you sound cool, or to make it seem like you sound cool. Whereas on this, it doesn't have any hole for the whoosh hole. It doesn't have any whoosh holes.
It doesn't have a cool hole.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't have a cool hole. I think maybe because this one's come off a like race car, so they already know they're cool, so they don't need to the whoosh. So it's whether we drill the holes for that, which I'm not particularly bothered about. But it's something we could do at a later date because it's right on top of the engine. But for now, I think I'm going to leave it. But let me know, do you want a cool hole? Would you have a cool hole in your car?
Depends how cool you are.
Yeah, it depends how cool you are. At the minute, I'm not that cool. Now we're onto the engine. Things are moving quick. The engine is on a separate frame, as you can see on the bottom, and we've got to lower the car down onto that frame, and then we can start putting the bolts in, like this one through the transmission. And you can see how tight everything is at the front of the car, so there's no room for error. I'm now tightening a hose clip on some pretty difficult to get to hoses, and now we're going to jack the transmission up at the back just high enough so we can get the bolt through this hole here. And to get this bolt in, you need about 1,000 extensions. Ready? In it goes. I was holding the bolt on one side and my dad was tightening it on the other. And that's the transmission held to the car now. All we've got to do now is put the bolts in from the bottom to hold the engine frame to the actual car frame. And now with all that weight at the back of the car, it starts to topple off the lift. So we had to think outside the box here and use a ratchet strap to strap the front of the car to the front arms of the lift. That way it's not going to tip up when we raise it in the ramp. And now the McLaren's in the air, we can get to a lot more bolts to tighten the engine to the frame of the car. This is the wire that goes from the battery, which is disconnected with the pyro fuse when the airbags blow, and it does go all the way down to the back here on the starter motor. There's 2 actual connectors going onto that, and then from the starter motor it then makes its way back and sits onto the alternator there. So that big wire is really important. Without it, it won't start the car, and it also won't charge the battery without that on. And now we're on to some more important things.
Exhaust. Let's put the cat in or not.
Ooh.
On goes the Larini downpipes, which actually came with the car, and they have sport catalytic converters in them. which should help for performance. Next thing to go on, charge cooler. This cooler cools down the air, which goes from the turbo into the intake. And obviously cooler air is more dense, and denser air means more power. So this is where the air goes in, and we can connect that up there. Should have nice cold air going in because it's going through the charge cooler, which we all learned about now. After the charge cooler, there's more cooling on this side, the radiator, which also has the aircon condenser on as well. As the engine is right at the back of the car, and these radiators are pretty big, there's not much space for the radiators to be at the front, so McLaren have put them on the side, that way they can get the most airflow. I've just got to make sure I connect it all up. If we keep building up stuff on the back, it is literally going to topple over. So I think we need to address the front, and the issue being, this is a left-hand drive. No, this is a right-hand drive tub. That is a left-hand drive tub. Let me show you the differences. So the main difference is being all of these holes. So on the right-hand drive tub, which is what we've got here, normally the loom would come out this hole, and your steering rack will be on this side here, and your brake will be on this side here. We need to switch everything over to there, which looks doable, no problem, but this hole here for the brake is smaller than this hole. You can see that's the size it needs to be. The hole is not an issue, it's just the bolts, and if we drill out where these marks are there, I just think it's a little bit sketchy. This side's fine because we can make it bigger, and this is fine because we can cover that up, and we can also drill this hole out on that side. So I think the best way to do this in-house as well, I can't see of any other way, is that we've noticed that all the car is literally bonded together like this. All the carbon is bonded together. You can see all under here. So I reckon if we cut out the section of that left-hand drive tub and plant it into the right-hand drive tub there and bond it in, I think that's our best bet. We'll keep this there, but you know what? Let's just do it and we'll go from there. But you guys can be the judge. I think this is going to work. So in short, we've got to get this to look like this. And the best and most accurate way I can think of is by actually cutting the one out on the broken tub. Now we could actually just drill 3 holes and put the brake master cylinder in the new tub, but this is just a precaution. So this is what it's supposed to be like. Now we've got to figure out how we get this onto that, so which should go in, oh look, a glove. So that'll go in like that. Oh, that's actually looking pretty good. This is now going to give us an exact location where the hole for the steering rack is meant to go and where all the brake components should sit as well. So I'm going to mark out the hole for the steering rack and the holes which mount the brake servo.
Does it line up?
It does line up, look at that. Is that good or what? I reckon we ought to cut a piece to go in there. Well, that's not completely around there, is it? Well,
Oh yeah, is that going to fit the...
so we might have to get Matt to do his Dremelin. He's good at that.
Yeah, professional.
So I'm going to bond this piece on from the old tub and put it onto the new tub, and as my dad mentioned, I might have to Dremel out the hole to make it perfectly round. This will be more than enough to mount everything because the only pressure this thing gets is from the inside of the car. But what do you guys think? Was this the best idea? Well, we're about to find out.
Oh, we're in.
The brake servo fits in the hole and mounts up nicely. So now my dad's just drilling out the holes on the other side of the tub, which is where the wiring looms will go through. And also, we've got to fill a few holes which we don't need, where the steering rack would have gone through on a right-hand drive car. Not only that, there's a few other things which need switching over, like this bracket here, which sits underneath the dashboard. Okay, and this is the left-hand drive one. Oh, look, no more hole drills needed. Holes needed.
Good England.
And not only that, we also need to drill out the holes which mount the throttle pedal to the tub. Here's my beautiful stencil which I made earlier, which now allows me to mark out where the holes were and drill them into the tub I'm going to put some riv nuts in there so I can thread it in like OEM. And in goes my throttle pedal, making sure I got it completely straight. Right, the fix is on. Come check out the front, come check out the front. You would never know, apart from this bit, but you'd never know, but that is solid and bonded on pretty good there. So all the other holes are all good. This is the right size now, this is the right size now, all the riv nuts are in the right place. We're good to start pushing the wires through into the front and slowly build up the front end. So, yeah, who's going to push the wires through? You pushing, I'm pulling.
Cool.
Finally, the wiring loom can make its way through to the front. Right, through. I don't know where it went. Oh, we're threading through the bottom half, which went to the left side of the car. Then we've got to figure out where everything went. Wiring it is through, but if I'm honest, I have no idea where it went or goes. And to give me some sort of clue of where it went, we're going to put the legs in, and that's going to counterbalance a bit of the weight at the back as well. Then after that, once we've got the legs in, I should be able to see where all of it went, and I could start doing it. So my dad's loosened it off.
I'm off.
I'm off.
I'm off.
I'm in.
Whoa!
Hey, transfer. Oh. Right, here we go. I'm in.
We're on.
Oh!
Yeah.
Look at that. How easy was
It's
that?
transfer season. Now the front end is on the McLaren, I can now figure out where all the wiring went. Not as bad as I first thought. Here we go, it's exciting times. The heater box is going in. We're trying to work as fast as possible because the longer we wait and the longer it takes, the more we forget how this thing went back together. And it is lunchtime. And if we go out and get lunch, it's going to waste too much time. So it's lucky we've got a Y food.
Happy banana. I am happy.
How's that?
Great.
Y food is a meal replacement drink. Not a diet drink, not a protein shake. It simply just replaces one meal. It's got 26 vitamins and minerals in there. It's high in fibre, high in protein, it's lactose free, it's gluten free, and there's no added sugar. That's why it's perfect for people like us who are constantly on the go. I think I've just dropped a bolt as well. Oh. Y food have loads of different flavours, and they also have vegan options. It's the perfect healthy alternative to going and grabbing some fast food at lunchtime, dinner, or even breakfast.
But what if the viewer wanted to try some Y food?
Well, anyone could try Y food at home, and you could actually get it for free. £100 worth of Y food just by clicking the link in the description box below and filling out the questionnaire. You could potentially get £100 worth of Y food for free, so you can find your favourite flavour and enjoy it just like me, my dad and Matt behind the camera. Thanks, Y food. The work on the McLaren commences. The brake servo's gone into place, the heater box is going inside the car, and once that's done, we can start to lift the front subframe with the steering rack and all the suspension connected to it and try and mount it to the car. We're going to place the front subframe onto a jack and then push the jack underneath the car and lower the McLaren onto the subframe. I'm then going to put the bolts in which hold the shock absorber to the car, and that should be enough to support the whole front subframe. I'll then lift the car up in the ramp and tighten up all the bolts which hold the subframe to the car. And now it's the case of putting everything back together, and you can see how fast the minutes pass here. I've got to figure out where the wiring went, where all the brake lines routed and went into the ABS pump, and make sure I tighten everything up and not forget one bolt, as one mistake here could lead me into taking so many things off to fix something I've missed. I'm now attaching all the hydraulic lines to the suspension on the McLaren, which are believed to be a really complex system and actually might have to be set up by McLaren themselves. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, I think it's done. That is pretty much everything apart from the rest of the stuff on the front end, like everything important. Now, inside. We've got to lift the dashboard in, obviously, but The pedals, my dad's installed the brake pedal in the correct place, but this bracket is going to cause us the most headache. So this goes somewhere around here on the left-hand drive one, but there is no holes in the tub for this because this was on the right-hand side one. This holds the dashboard and the steering rack, so we've got to get this in the right place. And I think the only way to do it, like we could stencil out that side, but I don't think it's going to go well. I think the only way to do it is literally lift the dashboard in, put this up, mark it where it sits, and then drill out the holes for it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Let's do that. Me and Matt can lift it in. Time for the dashboard, but it's not going to be straightforward. Here's the bracket I was talking about. This mounts to the steering rack here, and then the other part mounts to the carbon tub. I'm going to bolt this bracket onto the steering rack, and then me and Matt are going to slowly lift the dashboard into place, bolt it to the carbon tub with the other bolts, and once it's held in place, I'm going to go underneath the dashboard, draw out a stencil for the bracket, and then lift the dashboard back out. Stencil is stenciled. Put a little etch primer in there. Now we just got to drill the holes, and then I can bolt that to that. With the holes drilled, I can put the riv nut in place just like OEM, make sure the bolts actually thread in, put the other riv nut in place, and just to confirm, make sure that the bracket actually lines up to it. Then we can lift the dashboard in for real. Underneath, I've got to get the steering column to mount to the steering rack, which you can just about see here, slide that in place, and then put a bolt through to clamp it to the steering column. And the eagle-eyed viewers would still notice a hole that we need to fill out, but we can get onto that later. For now, my main goal is to start the car.
Right, I'm doing the brakes.
Why are you doing the brakes?
I'm doing the brakes because the car won't start without a brake pedal. I have to have a brake pedal for the car to start. Matt's doing the dash, so I'm going to do the brakes. So we're going to fill the reservoir up to run into the open pipes. And hopefully it'll push all the air out.
We could use Mr. Push.
Yeah, we can use Mr. Push.
What's Mr. Push?
Mr. Push, I don't know. This is one of his things that he's got.
Oh, right.
So, we've attached the caddy bar to the brake line because we haven't got any rear suspension on at the moment. And we're going to put a piece of wood in there.
No, it doesn't fit.
Oh, that's it will do in a minute. We're going to put a piece of wood in there so that when we pump the brake, it'll still go hard because that will be acted as a disc.
But the rear right caliper was still attached to everything, so my dad needed to get that off.
Pit stop.
1.7 seconds, it's a record!
For Mclaren! Yay! You could have one of these.
How could we get one of them, Tony?
By going onto the merch site and ordering them.
Oh, what's the wheel?
Caliper's no good.
Why not?
Look. What do you say? It's perished.
The caliper was perished, but I do think it's fixable. We've just got to drill out a few bolts from it. But in the meantime, we had an alternative to get brake pressure.
This is the broken pipe. We're going to fix it to here. Like that. Then we'll get some clamps and we'll clamp that shut.
This broken pipe will still allow us to get brake pressure, because my dad's just going to clamp the hose here. Meanwhile, I'm still inside, putting together the dashboard and routing all the wiring inside. Not one of my favourite jobs.
We're putting Mr. Push on.
Do you know why it's called Mr. Push?
Why is it
Yeah,
called Mr.
because
Push?
it's not Mrs.
Because it uses tyre air, the air out the tyre, to push all the brake fluid out of the calipers. That's right. Although its real name isn't Mr. Push, that's just the name we've gave it. But right now it is pushing brake fluid all through the brake system, so we should get a pedal.
Bled all the brakes. Got a good pedal. Matt will be able to start it in a minute when he's finished his bit.
Although the car's not fully back together, I want to build it up enough so it starts. That way I know I've not missed anything out.
Oil cooler. If you can remember, previous video was leaking.
Look, it's repaired. Why do we need a new one?
Because That's not a foolproof repair, is it?
My dad is talking facts. Here's a second-hand oil cooler that I managed to get, and we're going to be replacing the damaged one because last time we started the car on the old tub, gearbox oil was flying out from the oil cooler.
Okay, two have water coming out of them, 2 have oil coming out of them.
And that's how a cooler works. It has a channel for oil and a channel for coolant, and the coolant will cool the oil, making sure it's at the correct working temperature. Pedals are in, new holes drilled for the accelerator, Bob, in. Technically speaking, this car you could install accelerator and brake pedals on the right hand side as well because there's holes for both sides now. Next thing to get it to start are the ECUs. There's an ECU on the left side of the engine which controls the left bank of the V8. I put that on first. Then there's also an ECU for the right hand side of the engine which controls the right bank. Now the plugs are damaged on this ECU, so I'm going to have to see if I can order some replacement plugs. But with that connected, it should be enough to start it. I think we missed a vital button. The start button. In goes the oil, 0W40, and we're using Mercedes oil.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Ask Matt, he'll knows.
Well, actually, we found that Mclaren uses other Mercedes parts. Let me show you. The funny thing is that we need now to start the car is electrical power. We need a battery. But the thing that's stopping the battery power going to the starter motor is this pyro fuse right here. Now, if you go to Mclaren and order a pyro fuse, no doubt they're going to try and sell you this full panel here, which is going to cost a lot. But, here we go. Here's the pyro fuse. Can you see that, Matt?
Does that say Mercedes?
Mercedes-Benz pyro fuse. And actually, this pyro fuse, I've ordered one, £16.49 each off eBay. But it's not come yet, so I'm going to have to jump it still. So they use Mercedes-Benz pyro fuse. What else do they use Mercedes-Benz? So this is where the pyro fuse should mount, right here. But we don't have the new one yet. So I'm just going to put the starter motor cable directly to the power, as we usually do. And now I can lift in the battery to finally get this thing started.
Oh.
It's like the heartbeat monitor in here. Oh my god, there's so many errors.
It's not happy.
The screen's going off and on and everything. Despite all the errors, I think I've connected up enough to start it. Hopefully. Okay, right. Key not found. Oh. There must be something in here which registers the key because it's not finding the key.
Oh, that was. We think that's what was plugged in back here? Remember, it was like against.
Oh yeah, it's in the center console, isn't it? There's a sensor in the center console which recognizes the keys in the car. This little oval thing here. So we need to plug that in. Yes, it did. So that little hoop is the key registering thing. Oh my god, there's lights everywhere.
The more lights now is registered.
Yeah, look, look.
Oh, look, it's like Nico's Ferrari.
It is literally Nico's car.
I think we just go for it.
Should I just try and start it then?
Yeah.
Okay, every single light is on. I don't look at this, but we're still going to try and start it. Okay, I'm holding the brakes, which is pushing me to the back of the car. Here we go. No. The thing here is to register the key being in the car. There's 2 of these, so I can't see it being this, but I mean,
Throw one.
there was another sensor for registering the key, so we didn't know whether we needed to connect that as well for it to start. But still, nothing.
Why do you think it won't start?
Because it ain't back together.
I had fuel in it, I had oil in it, we had battery power, but the car wouldn't start. Now I was going through everything just to double check that I'd actually connected all the ground wires. And was going to try again. Here we go. But again, nothing.
Dead.
No. I then checked to see if I plugged in the fuel pump. Yeah, that's on. But even if that wasn't on, it would have cranked anyway. We can't even get it to crank. So why is it not cranking now? So we've got brake light, we've got brake pressure, but it's not cranking. Every single thing works apart from getting it to start. We then called our good friend who knows a few things about McLarens, especially broken ones. Is there anything anything that needs to...
Stab the brake pedal as hard as you can.
Right, really, what, like punch it almost?
Really, yeah, like really, like, yeah, stab it.
Gone for it. Right. No, it makes a weird noise. It goes, but it doesn't. We've got no doors on. Does that matter?
No. So, is the start button, is it flashing? So you said you bled the brakes. Do you feel brake pressure?
Yeah, we've got full brake pressure. Yeah, we've got full brake pressure, and we know the brake switch is working because the brake lights come on at the back.
I'm just thinking what else it could be other than some grounds. When all else fails, just stab the brake and see what happens.
Okay, we'll give it a go. Cheers, Freddie.
All right, man.
Bye. Well, Freddie seems to think we've ticked all the boxes, but it still wouldn't start. So my dad was going to try his technique.
Well, I'm just going to see if we can start it with that.
Sound.
My dad was just going to put power directly to the starter motor whilst I had the ignition on. And we'll see if that starts it. But still, nothing.
Do you think it's because the fuel's low?
No, I've got fuel. Might not even be sparking. It might not. I've got a small feeling it's something to do because the car's like this.
But yeah, well,
We've failed. We have failed, and I really wanted to get it started. Just before we left, just in case, there is 2 wires here which we've found, which are on the ECU wire for the engine, which are not connected up. So do you think this is the engine wiring, and these were the only 2 wires not connected on the engine? If this is it, cracked it. Could this be something to do with the gearbox? Do you think that if that's the only thing doing it, let's try. Can't be, it can't be 1 wire like that. If this does it, Okay, here we go. It blew the oil out of the filler cap. Oh my god! Oh my god! Well, it started 1 wire. That thing there, that must register whether the gearbox is in neutral or something, because it looks like it's going into the gearbox or something. Okay, here we go. Got power steering. We're good. Fans working. Come on, 1 wire. Good spot. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
Like a drug that I just can't deny.